Recording in progress.
Welcome into the first episode. This is the match day 3 or 4 if we're talking La Liga, I think, unless they somehow worked in another extra version. I'm your host, @real_G Warner, on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. I've done one episode a week for every match day of the domestic leagues, top 5 European soccer leagues. And I've not gotten to them just yet this season, as I have done. Instead, I focused on trying to get the leagues done, and then went on a bunch of travels. Anyway, rest of year, we're going to be doing this. We're going to doing every game, most likely Friday nights, but hopefully Friday mornings at some point, so I can include the Friday action for you all. If you're not following me on Twitter, please do so at @real_G Warner across all social media platforms, I guess, that matter. And if you could subscribe to Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave a 5-star review, huge for the search rankings. We got plenty of other sports stuff coming out on that platform. College basketball coming sooner rather than later, of course. It's a couple months away just now. It's going to revamp and restart the baseball podcast as we get towards the playoffs with A. Brooks Bets. We have an NFL podcast and with @A_Schnicker, and we're going to keep this going as long as possible. But get ready. There's going to be a lot of soccer on this feed. And today we are wearing a fresh Monaco practice kit. I feel like it might be a little tight, unfortunately, but it might be the croissant de chocolat that I had over my trip to Europe. Unfortunately, didn't get to any soccer matches, but I've been watching a million, trying to catch up from what I was away for. And it's time to get into it and find some best bet winners. There will be an ultimate best bet coming end of show. I pick my favorite bet from each of the top 5 European soccer leagues. And then I cut it into a 1-minute video, put it on YouTube and on Instagram at @real_G Warner on both of those platforms, similar to what I do on the other sports that I do for baseball and also for the NFL. So we're going to start where the money is, and that is the English Premier League. So let me pull up these numbers, and I will try to give an idea of where numbers have moved since I've been tracking them, and give you an idea of, even though we're early in the season, what I'm thinking about all these teams. So we'll start with Southampton at hosting Manchester United. Excuse me. Right now we have Southampton to 3/4 goal underdog at home. More juice on the Manchester United side. Would expect that to be the same way. Especially as Manchester United has been getting bet since I've been tracking it. I think a 1 is fairly possible, at least a very juiced +1 on Southampton at home. Total here is 3, juiced very heavily to under right now. That's been getting bet since I've been tracking it as well. And that's, to me, a key number in this sport. If you want to play under, I suggest you grab Southampton, Manchester United under 3 overnight before you lose that, because 2 3/4 is not great when you could push if it lands 3. Southampton have been a disaster so far. They've been great at possessing the ball, but I'm starting to think that the Premier League sides have been letting them have it so that they could counterattack or really just wait till their backline fumbles. And then that led to 2 Brentford goals and then a set piece goal on a long throw in. Incredible performance. Don't know how that under lost. And then honestly lost the full unit when Southampton scored their first goal of the season in the 90+5, so the 95th minute. I wouldn't expect Southampton to score because I just don't trust them to. That does make them very, very dangerous to play, even at home, where they should have a huge boost, as they've, in previous seasons, they are a newly promoted side of the Premier League in 2024, had been in the league for a while and had great home results, including, I think, making Manchester City really struggle in the past. So Manchester United on the other side, don't really trust their offense. They're probably going to press and have a more sophisticated one than Brentford. But I also am not sure how much I trust Erik ten Hag's press versus the geniuses at Brentford that have constantly been overperforming the market and their budget for a long, long time. I think my biggest interest on this first one is Southampton as a under 3 is my clear one. And I think that'll probably be my biggest interest for this first matchup. And it's a very early start. Recording this 11:39 Central Time. It starts in, less than 7 hours. So we'll see. Hopefully, anyone watching live on YouTube, that would be great. If you don't want to miss any of these moving forward, please subscribe at @real_G Warner on YouTube. So we'll move next to the big kind of run of games, and that starts with Brighton and Ipswich. Currently, Brighton a 1 1/4 goal favorite at home. Total is 3, juiced all the way to over. Maybe we see 3.25. I'm not certain about that, but certainly the juice is pointing that way. I think my biggest interest in this one, after seeing Ipswich finally get a result, finally after not playing the top two teams in the league, or Liverpool and Manchester City, pretty high on the list, if not top two. I think this is going to be a tough situation for them, though, because I think Brighton, though they switch managers, it seems like, as I think we saw with the Graham Potter fiasco at Chelsea, though maybe not fully his fault, it seems to me that there is a lot in the water in Brighton, or just they have great analytical teams and they know what they're doing. And so I think my biggest interest in this matchup is to watch and see how Ipswich perform. They've certainly built the team up. They've done a lot of business in the last, or towards the end of the transfer window. That'll help. But Brighton, they're a team that wants to attack all the time, even without De Zerbi, who's about the most attacking manager possible. He moved to Marseille in France. I think my biggest interest in Brighton and Ipswich is to watch at this point. Move next to Manchester City hosting Brentford. Manchester City, a 2-goal favorite at home. Totals 3.5, juice all the way to under. Maybe we see this fall to 3.25. I think my biggest interest in this matchup is the road team. Brentford have been very competitive with Manchester City. I think even beat them. I'm not sure if they did a double, but they've had good success at least hanging around Manchester City. City, of course, best team in the world, have been for a while, at least are lined that way. I'm not sure I've ever really seen them an underdog, and even if they're playing their backups. They will be playing their best here and are at home where they play very, very well. With that said, Manchester City are always tempting to bet against for me because they're gigantic favorites all the time. 2 goals to offer a Brentford side that will do a lot to try to stifle Manchester City and use their set pieces, long throws, which I guess is technically a throw-in is a set piece if you want it to be one. You also could back Brentford, and I guess a derivative of backing Brentford is to play under 3.5. You would unfortunately suffer if Brentford are able to score, but ultimately I think that is backing Brentford more so than fading Brentford, because you're trusting a Brentford defense to potentially keep a Manchester City offense quiet. I'm interested in both side and total here for Brentford and under. I think they work both in this soccer style. I don't think home team and I don't think away team and under generally work together like in baseball. It's definitely home and under is a correlated version. But at this point, I think that's my biggest interest in this one. Two interests, I guess, in this one. Brentford +2 and under 3.5. Moving next to Liverpool hosting Nottingham Forest. Currently Liverpool a 2-goal favorite. All the juice on Nottingham Forest on the road. Over under is 3.25, juice all the way to over. Liverpool, to me, are a very possession-based side now under very different than what they were under Jurgen Klopp. Arne Slot seems to be, I didn't really have that take on him. I thought he was a more attacking manager, and I thought he would just pick up from what Jurgen Klopp had done previously, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And again, another gigantic favorite, 2 goals offered to Nottingham Forest. Over under here is 3.25. I mean, those are big, big numbers. I don't know that I trust Nottingham Forest seem to score a bunch of goals off of very, very good fortune at home. But they're on the road, and that certainly could lead to a big type of blowout situation. It seems like the side has been moving between 2 and 1.75. I would expect, based on the Liverpool popularity, that this number would stay there, but there's a good chance that there's a lot of money backing Nottingham Forest +2. I think similar, very appropriate after Manchester City Brentford discuss Liverpool Nottingham Forest, because both big underdogs, and I think you might have a little bit more safety and potentially backing Nottingham Forest in under 3.25 rather than the side here. I feel like Brentford have a little bit better chance of scoring. Maybe that's why they're up to 3.5, but I think that's really based on Manchester City. So Nottingham Forest +2 is a big, big number. Very good chance you can push. Single goal loss, you're a winner. But I don't know that I'm really trusting those type of results, because the late goals have been very brutal already to start this season. We'll move next to Crystal Palace hosting Leicester City. Currently Crystal Palace a 1-goal favorite at home. All the juice on Leicester on the road right now. Over under is 2.5 with all the juice to over. In terms of moving on this one, I saw 3/4 of a goal earlier this week getting odds. So it's probably going to vacillate between 3/4 and +1. Again, Leicester is a promoted side, despite their previous success years ago. As a promoted, they're going to be up against it all season. Crystal Palace, to me, I think had high expectations, especially for how they finished the end of 2023. Oliver Glasgow is one of my favorite managers, but I like him more as an underdog than a favorite. I think the +1 is of interest to me. I don't know if that's going to make it to my card necessarily. I'm not sure I trust Leicester just yet. But I do think under 2.5 is of interest, though Crystal Palace certainly score a lot at home and have played very well at home with bad teams over the years. I think they're better than that now, but certainly aren't off to the greatest start or one that would have met last season's expectations end of year. Moving next to Fulham hosting West Ham United. Currently Fulham a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice in West Ham right now. Over-under is 2 3/4, juice almost all the way to over. That feels like a big total, though. Fulham, I feel like, have had some high-scoring matches as of late or towards the end of last season, but that was a lot because they didn't really have much to play for. We're safe for another year in the Premier League, and that's the main goal in the West London town. I guess West London section maybe is a better way to put it. Anyway, hopefully no one's grading me on my semantics at 11:45 Central Time in Dallas, Texas. So Fulham, a quarter goal favorite at home. I feel like West Ham, I don't love what I've seen from Lopetegui so far, though I trust him with a lot of money. I've backed him a lot over the seasons, over the years. I think West Ham are going to be very conservative. They don't really seem to have the possession type of creators from the wings that Lopetegui made so famous at Sevilla. But I do think that there's limits on the West Ham United offense, and I think there's the same on Fulham as well. Plus, I think West Ham, I mean, one of the more puzzling results last year was how poor West Ham was. Maybe that was the team just wanted to get rid of David Moyes, just wanted to have some sort of refreshing change, maybe. I think it's hard to see 3 goals in this matchup. Honestly, we might even get to push on 3 tomorrow morning. We'll move next to Aston Villa hosting Everton in the next window of matches in England. Aston Villa, 1-goal favorite with all the juice at home. Over unders 2 3/4, all the way juiced to over. Everton have looked disgusting to start the year. I don't think that's too light of a word. I think from an Aston Villa perspective, they've been really good at home at keeping teams quiet offensively. We saw that, and I thought they played really well, controlled a game against Arsenal for 70-plus minutes, and then gave up a goal, and they gave up a second one of almost the exact same type. And that kind of was all she wrote. Another brutal late result change, but I guess it's soccer. Get used to it. I think Everton's my biggest interest here, more to the under 2 3/4. I can't really back them. Don't really like even a +1, a full goal of insurance, which is surprising for a Sean Dyche club who I really backed for every chance I could over the years, especially when he was at Burnley. I think we'll get 3 by the time this one kicks off, 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern in the United States. I'll be waiting to see that happen. For now, though, I do like that under 2 3/4 as well. Last matchup on Saturday, Bournemouth hosting Chelsea. Currently, Bournemouth a half-a-goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-under is 3 1/4, juice almost all the way to over. I'm about as big of a fan of Andoni Iraola as anyone. If you know someone that's more of a fan, please introduce me because I'm sure we'll get along great. I love what Bournemouth do. Essentially, they sit in and try to spring counterattacks. I think that's going to fit very well against Chelsea. The big question, though, is Chelsea's offense for real. I think we've seen them spend so much money. Of course we have. It's not even a think at this point. And maybe this new manager from the Pep Guardiola school of thought is the second coming. And Pochettino certainly did install some basics for a team that just seemed to be so lost and so scatterbrained. But no matter what, I think Bournemouth is a home underdog. It's really hard for me to want to avoid it. So I'm very interested in that side for the big game, I guess, Saturday nightcap in England. So I'll put both Bournemouth getting a half of a goal. And I guess I like under 3 1/4. But I think I like the home team more because I do think they'll be able to score against Chelsea, especially after seeing Wolverhampton Wanderers do it twice. Moving to Sunday, we have Tottenham hosting Arsenal. Currently, Tottenham a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over-under is 3, juice slightly more to over. Arsenal have been missing a lot of bodies for this North London derby. Declan Rice suspended. Odegaard on a plane, or was pictured getting onto a plane on crutches after his last Norway match in the Nations League. That's brutal. Shout out to my good friend Alex, former roommate, for sending me that photo over with disgust, I'm sure, as he hit send. Tottenham are really tough for me to want to back, though. I don't think their strategy works. I think it doesn't make sense, especially not against good teams. I do like them as a home underdog, though. That's probably my biggest interest if I had to pick something in this matchup, but I don't really want to play or mess with the total here. And Arsenal's defense has been absolutely great. Only one goal conceded so far with 10 men this season. And I don't know how much success Tottenham will have. Especially they're going to leave themselves in really, really grave danger for this entire matchup. So that I don't think I could play it under with Tottenham at all this season. Last but not least, Wolverhampton Wanderers host Newcastle. Wolves a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Newcastle right now. Over under is 3. All lines courtesy of Bet Online, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. But total here is 3, juiced a little bit to over. I'm just not really sure what to do with the Wolverhampton Wanderers at this point. Gary O'Neill has been one of my favorite guys to back, probably when he was at Bournemouth, which maybe made that a very easy transition from Bournemouth backing Gary O'Neill all the time to then backing Anthony Iraola when he showed up there from Rayo Vallecano in Spain. But ultimately, I think the Wolves are going to figure out their defense. It hasn't looked great so far this season. And Newcastle's a pretty good spot to figure that out because Newcastle have a really poor record of scoring goals away from home. It's a little different this year as they're not in Champions League, but I still feel like they're a side I want to fade because I don't really think that they're that strong. I like Wolverhampton Wanderers getting a quarter of a goal at home. I also like under 3 in that last matchup on Sunday. For the ultimate best bet in this episode, I got to pick something so you can hold me to it, and I got to pick something that'll get listed in the best bet, ultimate best bet portion of the show, end of show. I'm going to go with Bournemouth getting a half of a goal as my best bet in the English Premier League on this September 13th episode, at least for 9 more minutes. Move next to La Liga in Spain. We have Mallorca hosting Villarreal in the early matchup on Saturday. Mallorca, a very juiced pick'em right now at Bet Online. Over under is 2.25, juiced almost all the way to over. Better lines offered or better juices offered on the English Premier League at Bet Online. If you're not a member there are links in the podcast descriptions, both on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also separately on YouTube that will get you free money for a first-time deposit at both Bet Online and SportsBetting.ag. Both will work if you have an account at one. The sister site doesn't recognize it, so go get your free money. Just follow the link, and we will both get paid. Mallorca, big favorite at home. It feels like they might be moving to a quarter goal favorite. I don't trust their offense much. Villarreal's defense has been pretty poor, but Mallorca basically plays low-scoring, goalless matches at home. We saw that against Sevilla earlier this season. Villarreal had already beaten Sevilla. I feel like Villarreal are a better side, and I feel like have not played up to their potential so far. But I am pretty interested in fading Mallorca, though they're a really great home team. I just feel like the valuation of Mallorca is climbing significantly based on investment, of course, but I just feel like in the betting markets, they're getting too much respect. We don't have a quarter of a goal just yet. I imagine shopping around, you could find it on other sites. I'll be waiting for that number. And as always, I lean under on Mallorca matches on the island or really anywhere. Moving next to Espanyol hosting Alaves. Espanyol a pick'em right now. There's been some movement in this number as I think Alaves were an underdog at pick'em earlier, but some money has hit and they are now more juiced than Espanyol despite being on the road. Over under here is 2, juiced more to under, and Alaves are going to have to figure out what to do without Luis Rioja, who's moved to Valencia. That's a problem, especially because Alaves really hasn't looked anywhere near what they looked last season, which is very hard after a promoted first season and surprisingly staying up to then keep that going. But it certainly seems like the market is respecting them as a favorite on the road at Espanyol. As far as Espanyol goes, I haven't trusted them to score goals at all this season. I think my biggest interest here is now on a home dog, but under 2 goals as opposed to the side. Moving next to Sevilla hosting Getafe. Currently Sevilla a quarter goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2, juice very heavily to under. Sevilla have not looked great this season offensively. They haven't looked good for a while. I do feel like the market has adjusted a significant amount. I literally backed Real Sociedad to finish ahead of Sevilla in La Liga standings last year at plus money, and that was like almost a guaranteed winner from Christmas time. It felt like Feliz Navidad to all those who celebrate. But Sevilla are, I think, a little bit more appropriately rated this season, though I do feel like if they trend to half a goal favorite against Getafe, I just don't know that I trust Sevilla offense enough there. I think it goes correlated along those lines. Back Getafe getting a quarter of a goal, but also the under 2 in that matchup as well. Nightcap on Saturday, Real Sociedad hosting Real Madrid. Currently, Sociedad a 3/4 goal underdog at home. More juice on Real Madrid, not surprised. Over-under is 2.5, juice more to the under. I think there's a good chance we get a +1 here on Real Sociedad, though there certainly should be a lot of money and interested in taking a 1-goal insurance goal at home on Real Sociedad, who were group winners in Champions League with Inter Milan last season. It's been a very kind of severe fall since that group stage win that then pushed them into the knockout rounds of the Champions League. Got a tough draw and went out of the Copa del Rey. And then really the season kind of fell apart from just not having enough players in their squad, which was surprising because they were pretty deep. Real Madrid have not looked that impressive to me so far, but they're so talented. And Real Sociedad, I think, are going to have a real trouble scoring here. So my biggest interest is actually in that under Real Sociedad under 2.5 goals. Moving to Sunday, Celta de Vigo has Real Valladolid. Currently, Celta 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 2.5, juice all the way to over. Celta have been scoring a ton of goals in their matches. I don't trust them to continue doing that. I do worry about their defense, but I don't think Real Valladolid is going to be the team to potentially pierce that defense enough times. They've shown nothing offensively so far. Deflected goal won them a match against Espanyol, I think, in the opener. But I think that's probably my biggest interest. I do want to see this hit +1 because then the valuation of Celta Vigo would be literally crazy for a team that's been fighting relegation for, I don't know, ever since I've been following La Liga in COVID times. So I like that 3/4 of goal. I like the 2.5 better, and I'll be looking forward to this hitting +1, hopefully before first pitch. Oh my God, baseball podcast, betting the pitch. It does make sense, but that was the meant to be double entendre, baseball and soccer, but we've expanded into college basketball and of course into the NFL, professional football in America. So make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcast, the Betting the Pitch podcast, so you don't miss anything moving forward. Move next to Girona hosting Barcelona, a Catalonian derby of sorts. Barcelona certainly does not consider Girona a rival, but Girona definitely does. Girona, a 3/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over is 3.25, juice more to the under. Now, Barcelona have been about as unimpressive so far this season as anything, but they keep winning and coming from deficits, which has been brutal to my bankroll. I just don't think that Girona they had good success, I think, against Barcelona last season, if I remember correctly. Team is very different now, and I don't want necessarily to back. I don't think Barcelona will be angry about that, but I do think they'll take Girona a lot more seriously. I think this last year's team, Girona, you'd play 3/4 of a goal here. I don't think you'd be getting that, though. At this point, I don't know that I want to play unders with Barcelona because I just don't trust their defense whatsoever, and they certainly have a ton of goal scorers, as they always do. But I'm kind of torn on this one. I guess it's above 3, and that's usually a go price for me to look toward under. And I guess I like Girona getting 3/4 of a goal at home, as I'm a big home underdog person, but I'm not sure that either of those two are very strong plays for me right now. Next, to go to Las Palmas hosting Athletic Club Bilbao. Las Palmas a 1/2 goal underdog with all the juice. Over under is 2.25, juice almost all the way to over. Athletic Club have not shown much so far this season. I'm a little bit nervous about them in Europa League, but I feel like they should get it together. They've got a lot of talent, but trying to cover for a missing goalkeeper. And honestly, with the emergence of Nico Williams, that's done a lot to put lipstick on a pig that looks like it's aging significantly in the midfield, in the defense, and all sort of the place. Like, they've got young players coming in that aren't really proven. I think my biggest interest is because Las Palmas can't score goals. So I like under 2.25. They keep it close, but I don't know who's scoring in that one. And I feel like that's a general theme in La Liga in Spain. Nightcap on Sunday, Atletico Madrid hosts Valencia. Currently, Atleti, a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-under is 2.5, juice more to the over. Valencia with a really poor start to the season, and I found out the hard way backing them. I believe in Valencia, but I haven't seen it yet. And Atleti have done a lot to build that team. They're scary at home, as always. I think they'll probably be better away from home this season with more talent, but I just don't know if there's much for me to do in this one. I guess I lean to Valencia and under, but neither of those I like very much. I might even skip this one for my list. Last match on the La Liga card for this weekend is Rayo Vallecano hosting Osasuna. a battle of nothing offenses at this point. I do like Rayo. They've got Andoni Iraola. I mean, stop me if it's a broken record. Probably am by now. But the disciple of Iraola has put in a really great game plan for Rayo. I like them a lot this season. I think they win this match, so I'm not really interested in Osasuna even getting a half a goal, which I think is too much. My biggest interest in that one is under 2 goals. For my best bet in Spain, there's a lot of choices here. I do feel like there's going to be no scoring in that Rayo Osasuna Monday night match, so I'll go Osasuna under 2 as my best bet in Spain. Moving next to Serie A in Italy, as we have crossed, it's now midnight here, so officially Saturday morning, late night with the real_G Warner has commenced. I'm going to take a sip of water so I can try to stop yawning, and or haven't had any yawns yet, but they could be coming. Or maybe it's not water. No, just kidding. It is. Be a little weird to be drinking by myself talking about soccer lines, I think. But, I'm sure people do it. Moving to Serie A in Italy, we have Lake Como, I always want to say, but Como, 1907, I believe. They're hosting Bologna, and the Como side is getting a lot of respect here. Como, a pick'em, all the juice on Bologna, but that's very respectful for a Bologna team that's going to Champions League, though unfortunately they are a very different makeup from what did so well and surprised Serie A. Lost their manager, lost a bunch of key players, but I do feel like Como's getting too much respect there. I am curious about it, though, because I've learned in Serie A, if you see especially a home underdog, but any sort of underdog that's getting way too much respect, it seems like it's because that market knows what's going to happen. And we do have match fixing in the past. I'm not accusing that here, but I wouldn't be shocked that if gambling, I don't know if you can say gambling started with Italians. A lot did in the Roman Empire, of course, but that pick'em is very, very conspicuous to me, I think, at this point. I like under 2.25, as I think Como is, they spent a lot of defense. They brought in some big name players. I just don't really know where their goals come from. Bologna can't be as defensive as they were in Thiago Motta because he was awesome. But I don't also know and didn't really trust Bologna to score a ton of goals last season. They were great at defending, and I feel like it's much harder to turn on an offensive spigot. It's much easier to keep your defense going. Moving next to Empoli hosting Juventus. Currently, Empoli, a 3/4 goal underdog at home. More juice on Juve. No surprise there. Most popular team in Italy. Over-under is 2.25. Juice more to the under. I think that's the only way I'd lean in this one, but Juve have not really looked like the defensive kill a game 1-0 like they were under Allegri. I know my buddy Francis, that's like his favorite thing in the world. He's like, why don't we? So happy we don't play terrorist ball anymore. My biggest interest here is under 2.25, but I don't know that I want much to do with Empoli as they look like a team that's destined for relegation. Milan then hosts Venezia and nightcap on Saturday. Milan, a 1.5 goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 3 with almost all the juice. This does not feel that competitive. Venezia were pretty competitive. That said, on the road, I think on the road at Fiorentina, I feel like they're controlling most of that game. For that reason, I'm interested in that side and generally in them keeping it low scoring because I don't think they want to be in a shootout with Milan. Milan just feel like they are forever underachieving, and I don't know how Paulo Fonseca how long he'll remain. But they need to get some results. Moving next to Sunday, big match day, it appears, and we have a couple matches on Monday as well. Genoa hosts Roma. Currently, Genoa, a 1/4 goal underdog at home. A little bit more juice on that home side. Over-under is 2.25, do slightly more to under. Roma, I don't know if I've ever got a great feel on them, but Genoa's gotten a lot of respect, especially for a sophomore side. They were promoted 2 seasons ago after falling down, coming right back up. I wouldn't necessarily call them a yo-yo club, but they've definitely sold a lot of talent, did retain their manager, which has been important. I think my interest here is in that home underdog and under 2.25 as well. Atalanta then hosts Fiorentina. Currently, Atalanta, a 1/2 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over-under 2.75. Chooses split, so no real indicator there. Atalanta have I like both managers here, but Fiorentina's has not certainly been hitting the heights so far. Atalanta and Gasparini, I don't really want to fade at this point, so I don't think there's much for me to do in that matchup. Same time, we have Torino hosting Lecce. Currently, Torino, a 1/2 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over-under is 2.25, just very heavily to under, and that's the way I'd lean. It's not the same situation or system without Ivan Juric, the former manager of Torino. But Lecce, they do travel really well, but I just don't know that I trust them to score goals. And Torino, I'm not sure I do either. Cagliari then hosts Napoli. Currently, Cagliari, a half a goal underdog. Apparently, there's some bad blood in this Islanders versus Napoli, very close to the island. Best pizza in the world. Magnifique, chef's kiss. If you're listening on your Apple podcast or favorite podcast formats, platforms, there we go. You can watch on video though, because everywhere I upload, I do show pictures of me, or at least moving pictures with a random soccer kid or whatever sport I'm doing. I try to at least coordinate whatever, getting something in that realm. Man, it's late. So Cagliari, half a goal underdog at home. Don't have a great feeling on them. Napoli, of course, are going to be going through a huge transition into Conte ball. It seemed like it started off very, very slowly, clearly with a bad loss at Verona, but that will be a good team eventually. Certainly not as talented as they were just a couple seasons ago when they won the Scudetto. I don't know that I have much of an interest in this one. Potentially, Conte may be struggling a little bit with his road offense, but keeping Cagliari quiet. So under 2 3/4 is probably my biggest interest in that matchup in the islands off the coast of Italia. Monza then hosts Inter Milan. Currently Monza 1 1/4 goal underdog at home. More juice on Inter. No surprise. Over unders 2 3/4 juice all the way to over. I don't think Inter have been very impressive so far this season, but Monza with a new manager after theirs fled for Fiorentina, they have not scored at all. I don't trust them to do that. I think if anything, only interest here is under 2 3/4. But I think I've forbidden myself from playing Inter Milan unders against sides that they should smoke, and I think Monza will be one of those in that category. Moving to Monday, 2 matches. Parma hosts Udinese. Currently Parma a quarter goal favorite at home. Slight more juice on the underdog Udinese on the road. Over unders 2.5. Juice very heavily to under. Parma have looked great at home, but it helps when you start with your first 2 matches there. We'll see if they can keep that going, and they'll certainly pay the piper on the other side of the season when they have a run of road matches. But they've taken advantage. Udinese are not that scary of a road team coming in. Yes, they've been in the Serie A for a while, but they've also been relegation threatened multiple times. I don't know necessarily what to do this one other than potentially back some offensive frustration and an early start on Monday. So I'll go Udinese under 2.5 is my best bet in that matchup. Last one of the week in Serie A of the Giornata. Lazio hosts Verona. Currently Lazio a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 2.5. Juice all the way to under. Forever I like Verona as an underdog. I'll be waiting to see this hit +1. As it certainly looks like it's headed there. Also like under 2.5 is just don't really trust the Verona offense. I feel like that's usually I'm still so disappointed in a late goal that sent a 2-0 Verona victory over Napoli in the opener from winning side and total. Late goal, so they won 3-0 and just crushed it. But that was a good sign for Verona. Incredible that they're still in Serie A after where they were last season, selling everything they could. Lazio, I mean, they've improved, but I'm still not sure I'm a believer just yet in Lazio. I think, as I said, my interest is Verona and under there. As for my best bet from Serie A and Italy on this now Saturday, September 14th, I think my biggest interest here is honestly it's going to be Torino Lecce under 2 1/4 goals. Not very sexy, but that's what we do. It doesn't have to be sexy here. It's not a requirement, or at least maybe it is. If it's a requirement, please let me know in the comments. Just leave a 5-star review, and I will certainly respond however you would like me to. Moving next to France for Ligue 1, especially as I wear an appropriate kit, or at least practice or pregame warm-up, whatever jersey kit, camiseta, tricolt, whatever you call it, across the various platforms that or leagues that we're discussing. We'll start on Saturday with Marseille hosting Nice. Just got back from there, but unfortunately this game would have been perfect, but just 1 week too late. Damn it. Excuse my French. Anyway, Marseille, a 3/4 goal favorite with more juice. Over unders 2 3/4. She's heavily to under. Nice are, I mean, too big of an underdog here, I feel, and the total is gigantic, but I just they have not been playing well. Unfortunately, I don't know necessarily. I feel like I trust the manager they have in place, though they've changed managers a lot lately. A really bad goal that cost them a match against Auxerre earlier in the season. But I also feel like Marseille, they are never, ever performing to the level that their fans expect. And I think it goes really sour at home in the Stade Orange Velodrome. I think my interest here is Nice and under. I'm not sure I like both of those, honestly. Just a way to fade Marseille. Though most of the time I think Marseille matches do see a lot of goals at home. I mean, so it's probably Nice getting 3/4 of a goal is my biggest interest, and maybe this will be +1 before kickoff on Saturday morning. Angers then hosts Monaco. Currently, I'll say a half a goal underdog at home to buy Monaco kit. Over under is 3.25. Juice very heavily to under. Monaco are a team that's very hard to play unders against. Angers, I feel like have shown a lot more for a promoted side than you'd expect, or I would have expected. I think this is going to be a competitive matchup, only getting half of a goal, but at home and home underdog, I think there's some value there. Also like under 3.25 because Auxerre, they just don't really score enough for as much as they threaten. And I think that's something you see from promoted sides and good ones at that. Monaco certainly could blast them and have so much talent and score goals and play offensive football. That's always what they do. I do feel like this is potentially a tough spot, especially coming off an international break for Monaco. PSG hosts Stade Brestois in the last matchup on Saturday. Brest at 1.75 goal underdog away from home with all the juice. Over unders 3.25. Juice pretty heavily to under. PSG are just tough to fade. I think they're going to be fine without Mbappe. Maybe they don't have the Champions League winner type of optionality or ceiling, but I mean, they hadn't won it with him there. And so I feel like there's still a good chance that they might be undervalued, maybe more so in continental play. Moving to Sunday, we have Stade Rennais or Rennes hosting Montpellier. Currently Rennes a 1-goal favorite, all the juice on Montpellier, but they're not really a team I trust at this point. And I got to say, Rennes have not looked great either. Over under is 3, juice very heavily to under. Both these teams are going to try to score goals. I don't know really that I want too much to do with this one, as under and underdog doesn't really seem to vibe. Moving next to Toulouse hosting Le Havre. Currently Toulouse a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice very heavily all the way to under. Maybe we see this fall to 2.25. That would make sense for Le Havre, who have an incredible defense. And that's what got them into Liga, and they just don't really have an offense. So maybe that makes their defense look like even more shiny. For that reason, I feel like getting only a half of a goal, even against a pretty weak offense like Toulouse, it doesn't feel like enough. So I think my biggest interest there is under 2.5. Moving to Strasbourg, hosting Angers. Currently Strasbourg, a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice more to the under. Angers, one of those promoteds that just don't have any offense, it seems to me. Strasbourg have been playing surprisingly good football with a win, I think, against Lyon, or win against Rennes before the international break, a couple of match days before, I think. They've been impressive. I'm not really sure I believe it forever, but they were really good just a few short seasons ago and then had real big struggles when ownership changed. The crowd is good. I think my only interest here, I just don't want to back Angers, so it'd be to bet the under 2.5. Nantes then hosts Stade de Reims. Currently, Nantes a 1/4 goal favorite. All the juice on Reims right now on the road. Over unders 2.5 and juice pretty heavily to under. Nantes have been one of the probably surprise shows of this Liga calendar season. Antoine Comboiré, their former manager, came back in, previously won Coupe de France and got Nantes into Europe, which almost got them relegated. But Nantes are good, and I do feel like this is a pretty lofty valuation for Nantes, but they've deserved it based on how they've played. They've also scored more goals than expected. I do feel like that's more likely to come back to I guess, revert to the mean sooner than Nantes winning a home match because they do have a big crowd. With that said, I think I'm still interested in Reims getting a 1/4 goal, and I like under 2.5 in that one. Last but not least, we have Racing Club de Lens. They are hosting Olympique Lyonnais. Currently, Lens a half a goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 2.75, juice all the way to over. Expecting goals, that's probably how things go with Lyon. Lens, their manager, Franck Heiss, has moved on to Nice. And they brought in Will Still from Stade de Reims. I feel like Lens, they've been a dominant home team for a long time. I don't want to back Lyon here because they've got the talent, but I just don't trust them. They haven't certainly shown anything to trust them yet. And I just don't know that I want to play unders with Lyon either at this point in their campaign. So for my best bet in Ligue 1, I'm going to go with that Toulouse Le Havre under 2.5 goals, as I just feel like there's going to be it's going to be hard to find goals in that one, and that's going to be my final answer on Liga. One more league to go through, the German Bundesliga. Then we will go through an ultimate best bet and get the heck out of here. Try to get this uploaded so some of you can hear this before I guess it gets too late tonight. But thank you for any of you watching live. I appreciate that. And I guess this is a bit quicker version of this show, which is probably important rather than doing 115 minutes or 75 minutes. I think it's probably more accurate every Friday. Starting in Leipzig, we have Leipzig a 1.25 goal favorite to Union Berlin. Over unders 2.75. She's all the way to over. Leipzig with a huge upset victory ended by our Leverkusen's undefeated run. And now they get to come home where they've been dominant for years, but were not last year. And I feel like this is a really tough matchup for them, especially after all their players went away, a lot of them at least, to international duty. Union are going in. I don't really want to play the 1.25 because I think this could end in a 2-0 victory for Leipzig, but I just don't think that there's 3 goals in Leipzig at this point. And it looks like we might get under 3 by the time this kicks off anyway. So I like under 2.75 right now. We wouldn't see 3 before kickoff on Saturday morning. TSG Hoffenheim then host Bayer Leverkusen. Currently Hoffenheim a 1.25 goal underdog at home, which is pretty large. Over under is 3.75, which is very large. It feels like there's going to be some goals in this one, which does make the underdog a little bit less valuable, I would say. I think the spread is big, so that's my biggest interest in that one. It's TSG Hoffenheim getting 1.25 goals. Moving next to VfL Wolfsburg hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently Wolfsburg a pick'em, though slightly more juice on Eintracht right now. Over under is 2.5, juiced all the way to over. Looks like that'll be 2.75 very soon. Wolfsburg, I mean, they played Bayern very closely. I liked what Ralf Hasenhüttl, former Southampton manager, said after the matchup. He seemed to be really, really pumping his team up, and I think that's important in a grueling 38-week season, or 34 in the German Bundesliga, because they only have 18 teams like in France as well. I don't know necessarily what to do with this one. I think it's probably a leave it, because Eintracht Frankfurt, I mean, their performance at Dortmund was so good until they missed the sitter and then ended up losing 2-0. Another brutal 1-1 that should have been a 2-0, or at least a 1.5 profitable. So I don't know necessarily. Eintracht Frankfurt have had some trouble away from home lately. And under Dino Topmolo, it's been that way for a while. I like them. I like their future, but I think I'll wait and watch this one. Moving next to Freiburg, they're hosting VfL Bochum in the Schwarzwald Stadion, or what that used to be. Freiburg a 1-goal favorite at home. All the juice on Bochum on the road. Over under is 3, juice very heavily to under. Freiburg with a huge come from behind victory in their first match at home against VfL Stuttgart. I feel like that was a big, big move for them. Unfortunately, going on the road to Bayern München, their next match is fortunately, they've never really had much success there, besides, I think, one surprise cup victory a couple seasons ago. I feel like Bochum are a big underdog here. They've been really bad away from home. That's something I'm trying to take into more consideration. But Freiburg as a 1-goal favorite is pretty large. So I'm interested in Bochum getting +1. I think I like under 3 even more. Though Freiburg certainly had a lot of goals in their matches, though I can't really explain it. This year, though, they actually have defenders that are fit and available so far, and that's very important. Seems like their new manager is definitely keeping what Christian Streich had in place moving forward, at least that I've seen so far. Borussia Mönchengladbach then hosts VfL Stuttgart. Currently, Gladbach a pick'em. All the juice on Stuttgart on the road right now. Might see them move to a 1/4-goal favorite away. Over under is 3.25, just a little bit to over. I don't know what to think about Stuttgart yet. I feel like they needed to make some hay before they get into Champions League, because that's going to be a huge stress for a club that was literally fighting relegation for years and years and years, and then finally got to second place last season in the Bundesliga. Gladbach are a good home team, so that's my interest here. I'm going to be waiting to see that. I don't want to back them necessarily, but I'm waiting to see that climb to a 1/4 goal like Stuttgart got. Like Stuttgart gave to Freiburg, though Freiburg has certainly performed better than Gladbach despite a much smaller name in Germany and Deutschland. Nightcap, Top Spiel on Saturday is Holstein Kiel hosting Bayern München. Kiel, a 2-goal underdog at home, totals 3 3/4. I don't even think I want to spend any time in this one because I'm not getting in the way of Bayern Munich just yet, though I do feel like there will be time to fade them and Vincent Company down the road. Moving to Sunday, we have Football Club Augsburg hosting St. Pauli. Currently, Augsburg, a quarter goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over-unders 2 3/4, juice more to the under, almost all the way to under, actually. St. Pauli have looked good, but haven't scored a ton so far to start the season. I feel like they really the Augsburg style in how they score goals is from forcing turnovers. I think St. Pauli is going to have to be very, very wise about what they're doing. But ultimately, I just feel like fading a team that is at home and favored because they have done very well there, but usually it's from turning their opponent over. If you don't have an offense that score goals in your own, and especially with Emradin Demirovic moving to Stuttgart, I'm pretty interested in St. Pauli, at least at this point. So I like that quarter of a goal. I think I like under 2 3/4 better. Last but not least, Mainz 05 hosts Werder Bremen. Currently, Mainz a half a goal favorite. All the juice on Werder Bremen on the road. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice more to under. That's the way I'd lean. I don't see a lot of goals in this matchup. I don't think either of these offenses are very good. Mainz had an incredible run to finish the season in the Bundesliga 2024, and that was to keep themselves up. I just don't know necessarily that I feel like they're going to be in a perilous situation again, and that's going to be what potentially spurs their team, if you will. So now it's time. We've finished the top 5 European soccer leagues. Time to get to the best bets portion of the show. I would love for all of you listening to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Both would be huge. Or subscribe on YouTube. I think we have like 140 something subscribers. Would love to get that number higher. Only need to get to 1,000 before you've added. So you got a long way to go before that's going to occur. But until then, it's the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Also, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/thereal_G-Warner. Best spot for all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports, baseball, NFL, of course, soccer, as you're listening to this podcast. And I'll be trying to do this episode a little bit earlier moving forward, but we'll see with the requirements of time. And I don't know, trying to be somewhat fit, getting to the gym on a Friday is hard to do and do a podcast, I guess. But anyway, thank you all for listening. We've done 47 minutes late night. Hopefully this will get into your inboxes. If you subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, will be delivered to you hopefully in the sooner rather than later. And you can tell me how beautiful the background looks as I've decided to upgrade the backgrounds a little bit. So it's not just me and my couch or my map behind me. Instead, there's a little bit of animation and stuff like that. So tell me how you think or how you feel about that. But just make sure it's with a 5-star review. It's huge for getting our podcast out there. Of course, we have the NFL out every Tuesday night with A_Schnicker. That was our baseball night. We're trying to figure out maybe there might be a new date as we go through the rest of the season. Of course, still doing plenty of podcasts for pregame.com, college football podcast with that Big East Ben, also my co-host for the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast, and of course doing baseball with Munaf Manji during the week so far. Looking forward to college basketball with pregame again for the 5th straight season. Okay, I think I've done enough publicity. You know where to follow, do all those sort of things. So let's get into the ultimate best bet. Hey, this is the real_G-Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. I just went through all 5 soccer leagues, full cards, Saturday and Sunday and Monday. Went through the English Premier League, La Liga in Spain, Serie A in Italy, Ligue 1 in France, and the Bundesliga in Germany. Picked out a best bet from each of those leagues, and I'll list them shortly. You can subscribe at the real_G-Warner on Instagram and on YouTube to get these videos moving forward, or you can listen to full episodes wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course YouTube. Same channel, same thing. For England, the Premier League, I like Bournemouth getting a half of a goal. In La Liga in Spain, I like Osasuna getting under 2, excuse me. In Serie A in Italy, I like Lecce under 2 1/4 goals. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Le Havre under 2.5 goals. In the German Bundesliga, I like Werder Bremen under 2 3/4. But for the ultimate best bet on this episode, I'm taking Bournemouth at half a goal underdog at home. I am an Andoni Iraola fanboy, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see more podcast stuff related. I think we'll have a baseball podcast Monday night. That's probably next for pregame, and then NFL coming out Tuesday night. See you all then. And till then, hope you win some money.
Recording stopped.